We talked a little bit about it yesterday, about some other maybe specific aspects of it. And environmental justice communities generally lack political, social, and economic power in unique and inequitable environments. And as a result, they're often voiceless, vulnerable, and disenfranchised. So what is our role and mission as the Coastal EJ Community Ambassadors? Well, one of the roles, and we probably have many roles, but this is one way to kind of encapsulate it, to assist GOMA with engaging and partnering with underserved and underrepresented communities. And also to create a voice in the understanding, a voice in understanding coastal issues, concerns of these various communities. So part of it is to engage with you guys and partner, and also to provide that voice that these communities are lacking. So who are we? We stood up earlier, but I want to be a little more specific. As Joseph Dorsey, I represent the University of South Florida, and I teach environmental policy. We are a campus that I'm on. Actually, University of South Florida has 4 campuses, main campuses in Tampa. My campus is in St. Petersburg, and it's a smaller campus. I teach the courses, all the courses in environmental policy, introduction to environmental policy, environmental politics and policy, international environmental policy and sustainability. So that's, I'm the only person teaching, so I got that burden. But also I do research. My research is urban-based. I look at brownfield redevelopment, community gardens, as well as lawns and yards and runoff into Tampa Bay. And so that's what I focus on. I also have Danny Patterson from Alabama. He represents the Community Foundation of South Alabama. He's sitting right here in Mobile. Then there's Letty Evans Caldwell, Derek Evans, and Flowers White, which represent Mississippi. They're members of the Turkey Creek Community Initiatives. We have Tribal Chief Albert McQuinn of Louisiana here, and Patty Whitney of Louisiana. She represents the BISCO, which stands for the Bayou Interfaith Shared Community Organizing. And Juan Paris of Texas. He represents the Texas Environmental Justice Group. So we got together yesterday and talked about our respective communities and came up with a list of things that we feel are important to our community, and we want to share that with you. In Alabama, the issue came up of raising environmental literacy among NGOs and faith-based organizations. So part of the idea is that in order for communities to care about environmental issues, they have to be aware, and a lot of low-income communities, deprived communities, don't have the literacy, per se, on a lot of these issues. So it's important to make people aware, which can lead to concern and eventually action. In my state of Florida, I found that thinking about environmental justice on the coastal level, regional level was a little difficult to fit into something of maybe deprived groups, because in Florida, as you know, we have tourism as one of our main industries. And so where some communities you see that the poor people live on the coastline, say in Mississippi and Louisiana, it's almost the opposite in Florida. It's more high income on the coastal lines. And so you find that a lot of the communities that we want to address are actually more into the interior, more in the urban environments. But I think it's also important, just like with Florida, Alabama, that environmental literacy is a key focus, because that will create the responsibilities, and so I think we need to start teaching the young people, K through 12, early on to be aware and interested in the environment. So that can increase environmental education opportunities and promote careers in science, mathematics, engineering, and technology, and eventually have some of those young people sitting in these chairs in the future. And also training for green collar jobs and clean energy. So I think a lot of the issues in Florida are about education and providing opportunities for employment. Coastal communities in Louisiana, like I said, have their own issues. One of the representatives from there felt that communities need to develop a powerful voice. And that's, I think, important. We're going to bring that up over and over again, that we need to hear the voice of the people who are disenfranchised and deprived. And that's part of what we want to do, is help them develop that voice. Engage in coastal restoration and protection of the EJ communities. I don't have to tell you guys about how much Louisiana has been impacted by environmental problems over the years, and so the coastlines need regeneration. And create a diverse economic development strategy. I think economics is a key component to restorative environmental justice. That's something that I started writing about, this concept of restorative environmental justice, that environmental justice is being aware of communities being disproportionately affected by environmental issues. But after that, what do? The next stage is that you have to help these communities build the clout that they need to keep these problems at bay, and economics is key to that. You also have another representative from Louisiana who is his tribal perspective. And he mentioned that there's a lack of awareness of even the existence of these tribal communities in Louisiana. And so that's important to know that they're actually there. And also that there's a lack of recognition by the federal government as well. So talking about voice, he also not even noticed, and I think that's important that we give voice as well as recognition to these tribal communities. And expand partnerships with these tribes. And another problem that he said is really prevalent is the coastal erosion. A lot of the land is disappearing, and so how do we stop that? As we move up the coast, we go into Mississippi. Representative from Mississippi talked about enhancing understanding of local, state, and federal environmental agencies, training teachers to become environmentally savvy in terms of hands-on activities. Once again, education is a really important component of these communities that are represented. And also preserve the land and beautify the land. No one can argue with that. And then final communities, Texas representation, mentions there was a kind of I guess when we come to these forums here where a lot of scientists and economists and administrators and so forth, we talk about oceans and things, about the health of the economy. Part of the question is, can we clarify what it means to promote oceans as for the health of the economy? And I think sometimes communities that are not really involved in these type of sessions don't understand what that means. So maybe we need to clarify that, because it maybe makes people feel that they're excluded. And so we have to say, no, we're not excluding you. The health of the economy can also be good as far as developing jobs with these various communities as well. Make hurricane preparedness and resources available to the underserved and the underrepresented communities after coastal hazards. So we need to make sure that, once again, we don't forget these communities are impacted by hurricanes and so forth. Protect from toxic exposures. A representative talked a lot about how in Texas, as we know, a lot of oil comes out of Texas, natural gas, and so forth. So these are exposures that people get because of working in the industry or coming on shore or whatever, being in the communities. And then addressing wetlands and water quality issues. So these are the issues that the ambassadors came up with that are important to our respective communities. So we have recommendations for GOMA. One of the recommendations is to identify a spokesperson who can inform the Gulf residents regarding the workings of GOMA. So part of it is we need to find somebody in this group who can go into these communities and talk to them about what GOMA does, because it's important that communities understand it. Clarify what GOMA is and its focus. And also involve community in strategies. A lot of times, people in the community are not here. In fact, we're very happy that the ambassadors were developed so that people in the community can be a part of these sessions where we come up with ideas and solutions. A very interesting idea was to create opportunities for a free fishing day for those who don't have without a license. So to sum that up was this idea of having a day that kids and various people can come and fish for free, so they can start to appreciate what it is to fish and to understand the water, the oceans, and so forth. This can provide opportunities where students can learn to fish for free. So this is mostly geared towards education. And also provide support across the board to develop the community voice. Once again, this whole idea of giving voice to the voiceless. assist with developing civic organizations and coalitions. And this was another interesting idea, was sponsoring a think tank on community economic development. Once again, I think the important way to get these communities raised up is to create development opportunities. But most time when you think of a think tank, you're thinking of people with degrees and experts getting together to think deep thoughts and come up with these great solutions. But our idea is, why can't we develop a think tank with grassroots membership exclusively, the people who are most affected? There's a lot of intelligence in communities that we need to tap into to create jobs, investments, and financial opportunities. And to ensure that this information, another thing is that information, like scientific information that goes out to the communities, is presented in a manner that's easily understood by all. Of course, a lot of communities don't have people who have high literacy levels, like we said, and so you may have to figure out ways to make the information more understandable